Suspended above an endless storm, the city of Glassbound survives within a fragile dome of living glass, its cracks spreading, its secrets unraveling. Lira, an orphan of the lower city, discovers a hidden bond with the sphere's ancient magic, a power feared by the ruling council and coveted by the rebellion. As whispers of uprising ignite and betrayals fracture fragile alliances, Lira must decide whether to wield her inheritance to shatter the glass prison or preserve it at a terrible cost. Between freedom and ruin, she becomes the city's unlikely hope, its savior or its destroyer. The city of Arisal hung suspended in the sky like a jewel trapped within a glass orb, its vast dome curving overhead in perfect, unyielding transparency. Below, the endless storm churned an eternal tempest of lightning and thunder, wrathful and wild, a relentless force that kept the city isolated from the world beneath. Within this fragile prison, life thrived in uneasy balance, stratified by rigid class lines etched as deeply into the city as the cracks beginning to spiderweb across its surface. Lira darted through the narrow streets of the lower city, her small frame weaving effortlessly between market stalls and ragged clusters of homes clinging to the edges of stone terraces. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and salt, mingled with the cries of vendors hawking their meager wares. Her hands, calloused and quick, clutched a stolen scrap of bread as she slipped past a group of enforcers, their polished boots echoing threats that barely registered in her mind. She paused near a worn fountain, its waters dulled beneath the weight of soot and neglect. Above, the glass sphere shimmered, a vast, curved mirror reflecting the restless storm beyond. Tonight, however, something was different. A sliver of light fractured the sphere's surface, a faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat just beyond reach. Lyra's breath caught. She had seen it before, in fleeting glimpses during restless nights, but now it called to her with undeniable clarity. Fingers trembling, she climbed the crumbling steps to a vantage point beneath the glass. There, nestled between cracks and imperfections, was a delicate fissure aglow with an ethereal light. Her pulse quickened as warmth spread from her fingertips to her chest, a sensation both foreign and intimately familiar. The glass responded, humming softly, a conversation only she seemed to hear. "Lira," a voice broke her reverie. Old Mara emerged from the shadows, her lined face etched with concern. The street vendor's eyes flickered to the glowing crack. "You shouldn't be here. The council's eyes are sharp tonight." "I had to see," Lira whispered, her voice barely audible. "Do you know what this means?" Mara shook her head, but her fingers beat a nervous rhythm against her shawl. "They say the sphere holds the city's soul, that it's magic beyond understanding. But cracks like this," she gestured upward, "they bring ruin or salvation. No one knows which." The weight of Mara's words sank deep, mingling with the thrill that danced in Lyra's veins. She was an orphan, a shadow in the lower city. Yet here was proof that her world was far more fragile and far more alive than she had ever imagined. As the night deepened, Lira found herself drawn to the marketplace once more. There, amidst the clamor and chaos, she spotted Ravona, rebellious youth with eyes like embers and a reputation for trouble. He approached swiftly, urgency etched in every step. "You've been seen," he hissed, pulling her into a narrow alley where flickering torchlight cast long shadows. "The council's spies are everywhere. If they catch you close to the sphere's cracks, it won't be just questions they ask." Lira met his gaze, determination hardening her features. "I can't ignore it. This power, it's tied to me. I feel it." Riven's jaw tightened, but he nodded reluctantly. "Then we need to be careful. The city's divided, Lira. Between those who cling to the old order and those who dream of breaking free, you're caught in the middle now. The words echoed in her mind as she slipped away into the night. Alone, atop a rooftop, she looked up at the glowing fissure, its light pulsing like a living thing. The endless storm rumbled beneath, a reminder of the world's fierce isolation. But above, within the glass, a new story was beginning her story. One of shattered glass, hidden power, and a city on the brink of change. Lyra's fingers brushed the glowing crack once more, and with it came a whisper of promise and a warning. The sphere was breaking, and so was she. The night held its breath as the city beneath the glass slept uneasily, unaware that the fragile balance of their world was about to shatter forever. The damp air of the underground tunnel clung to Lyra's skin as she stepped cautiously forward, the faint glow of phosphorescent moss casting eerie shadows along the rough stone walls. Each footfall echoed softly, swallowed quickly by the vastness beneath the city. Whispers floated in the stale air, voices both cautious and determined, weaving through the labyrinthine passages like the very magic that bound the sphere above. Lyra's heart beat a rapid rhythm, not just from the climb down from the upper tiers, but from the knowledge that she was crossing a threshold. Here lay the pulse of rebellion, the simmering unrest that the glass dome sought to contain and silence. She paused, adjusting the worn satchel at her side, feeling the faint warmth of the glowing crystal shard she had found near her home. It hummed softly, a secret melody only she seemed to hear. A figure stepped out from the shadows, his face lined with the hardships of a lifetime spent beneath the city's gleaming surface. Marek, the rebellion's leader, nodded solemnly. "You're late," he said, his voice low but edged with urgency. "We don't have much time." Lira swallowed her nerves and followed him deeper into the hidden enclave. The air grew heavier with the scent of burnt oil and earth, mingling with the tension that hung thick among the gathered workers. Torches flickered against the rough-hewn walls, illuminating faces etched with weariness and fierce hope. Men and women from every corner of the city's lower tiers had come together, bound by shared suffering and the dream of freedom. Marek spread a tattered parchment on a rough wooden table. It bore a detailed map, drawn by hand and marked with symbols that spoke of the sphere's ancient origins. "This," Marek began, his finger tracing the lines, "is the history they don't want us to know." The sphere wasn't just built to protect the city from the storm. Below it was a prison, a cage forged by those who inherited the magic of the glass. Lira leaned in, her breath shallow. The ruling council, the elite who floated in their crystal towers above, were not just aristocrats. They were the heirs of a power that had bound the entire city in its shimmering grip. The sphere's magic was both a blessing and a curse, a source of life and control. "And you," Marek said, turning his gaze to her, "you hold something they fear. The crack you found, it's more than a fracture, it's a sign." Ira, a scout with eyes sharp as shards of glass, stepped forward. "We've been watching you. Your power is growing. But with it comes danger. The council won't hesitate to strike if they sense a threat." Lyra's mind raced. The weight of her discovery pressed on her chest, a mixture of fear and fierce resolve. Could she trust these strangers? Could she trust herself? The rebellion's call was strong, a beacon in the suffocating darkness of the city's oppression. Later, alone in a quiet alcove, Lira pressed her palm against the cool surface of the sphere's glass from a hidden vantage point. The glowing fissure pulsed beneath her fingers, alive with a magic ancient and wild. The storm roared endlessly below, a constant reminder of the fragile balance above. She closed her eyes, the voices of the rebellion mingling with the whispered warnings carried on the wind. The choice before her was clear, yet daunting: to shatter the glass cage and risk chaos, or seize the power to reshape the city's fate. As the city held its breath beneath the glass dome, Lyra's own heart thundered with the promise of change whispers beneath the sphere that would echo far, beyond the underground tunnels, and reach the very soul of Glassbound. The chamber was thick with unease, the heavy glass walls of the council hall shimmering faintly as the tremors rippled through the sphere like whispered warnings. Councillor Valen's voice cut through the murmur, steady but laced with concern. "The integrity of the sphere is faltering," he said, his gaze sweeping the gathered members. "We have felt its subtle vibrations, cracks forming unseen. We must act before the city itself fractures." His words hung in the air, sparking a wave of anxious whispers. Councillor Hestia leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of ambition and calculation. "Perhaps this is an opportunity," she mused. "The power within the sphere, long thought sealed, may be harnessed. We could strengthen our rule, secure the city's future." Valen's frown deepened. "We risk everything. The sphere is not merely a prison, it is a fragile balance. Disturb it recklessly, and we invite disaster." Meanwhile, far below the marble and glass towers of the upper city, Lira stood on the crumbling rooftop of an old tenement, the chill wind tugging at her dark hair. Her hands trembled, not from cold, but from the weight of what she was about to attempt. The fissure she had discovered the day before pulsed faintly at her fingertips, glowing with an ethereal light that mirrored the fire kindling inside her. She closed her eyes, drawing deep from the well of power that had awakened within her in the days since she first touched the glass. The magic was raw, unpredictable, and terrifying, but it was hers. Slowly, she extended her fingers toward the sphere's surface. The glow intensified, a pale blue light that danced like liquid flame. A crack appeared, thin and delicate, like a spider's web spun of light. It spread silently, branching outward, a whisper against the vast expanse of the sphere. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She was changing the city, its very shell, and with it, the fate of all who lived beneath the glass dome. The shimmering web of cracks sent ripples through the city's magical core, felt by those attuned to the sphere's power. In the marketplace, Mara's eyes widened as she noticed the subtle shimmer in the air. She found Lira moments later, her voice urgent and low. "You can't do this alone," she pleaded. "If they find out, if the council learns what you're capable of, they'll come for you." Lira met her friend's gaze, the conflict raging within her reflected in her own eyes. "I have to try," she said quietly. "If I don't, nothing will change. The city will remain trapped, and so will we." Back in the council chamber, the debate grew heated as news of the disturbances reached the ears of the ruling elite. Hestia's voice rose above the discord. "We must find this girl. If her power is as potent as the tremors suggest, it is not something to fear but to control." Valen shook his head, a grim expression settling over his features. "Control is a fragile thing here. If we push too hard, the sphere will shatter, and with it, our world." As night fell, the city seemed to hold its breath. The cracks in the sphere glowed faintly under the moonlight, a silent testament to the awakening power within. Lira stood at the edge of a precipice between freedom and domination, hope and destruction. Her choice would echo through the glass and storm alike, shaping the destiny of Glassbound forever. And somewhere, deep within the sphere's core, the magic stirred, responding to her touch, waiting for the next move. The echo of power had begun. The dawn brought little comfort. Lira awoke with the weight of the city pressing on her chest. The glow in her veins pulsed stronger, as if the glass itself whispered secrets she was only beginning to understand. She sought Mara in the crowded alleys, the marketplace already alive with the noise of vendors and laborers. "They're talking," Mara said grimly, pulling Lira into the shadows. "The council knows something's wrong. Soldiers patrol the streets more heavily. We have to be careful." Lira nodded, fingers grazing the small crack hidden beneath her sleeve. "I can't stop. The power is growing. I can feel it, but at what cost?" Mara's voice cracked with fear. "The last thing we need is a war that shatters the city." Lira's eyes shone with resolve. "I don't want war. I want change." Their conversation was cut short by the distant tolling of the city's alarm bells, signaled that the council was mobilizing. Meanwhile, in the council halls, Valen convened a secret session. Maps and ancient texts were spread across the polished oak table, the faint glow of enchanted crystals illuminating the grim faces around it. "We must find this girl," Valen insisted. "If she can break the sphere's surface, she can break the city's order." Hestia's eyes gleamed with cold calculation. "And if we control her, we control the power. The future belongs to those who seize it." Valen's voice was heavy with warning. "Or we all fall together." As the council debated, Lira felt the sphere's whispers grow louder, promises of power and peril intertwined. The echoes of her actions resonated beyond the glass, stirring the heart of Glassbound and heralding the breaking of old bonds. The city was awakening, and so was she. The choice was hers to make, but the weight of the sphere bore down like the storm beneath, relentless and unyielding. And with every crack, the line between control and chaos blurred further. The echoes of power had only just begun to sound their call. The city held its breath beneath the vast, transparent dome of glass. A fragile barrier between the floating streets and the raging tempest below. The endless storm churned with a fury that seemed to seep into every crack of the sphere. Its roaring echoes a constant reminder of the precarious prison encasing the city. Lira stood at the edge of the lower district, the glow of the fissure near her home pulsing ominously beneath her fingertips. Tonight, the glass whispered louder, as if urging her forward. She moved swiftly through the dim alleys, the scent of rain mingled with smoke and sweat. Around her, the hum of the city's unrest grew louder, whispers of rebellion, murmurs of change, and the unspoken fear that the glass might finally give way. The rebellion's underground meeting place was a cellar beneath an abandoned forge, its walls lined with faded banners and crude maps. Flickering torchlight cast long shadows as Riven awaited her arrival, his scarred face illuminated by the warm glow. "You came," he said, voice low but edged with relief. "The cracks are spreading faster than we anticipated. The ruling council is tightening its grip." Lira nodded, her green eyes sharp. "I've felt it too. The sphere is weakening. But it's more than that. People are restless. They want freedom, not just from the glass, but from the chains that bind them." Riven leaned forward. "We need you with us. Your power could turn the tide. But trust is scarce, and the council's spies are everywhere." The distant rumble of thunder vibrated through the thick glass walls, a reminder of the storm's relentless presence beneath them. Outside, the city's divided classes moved like currents in a stormy sea. Above, in the gilded spires of the upper districts, Lady Melis observed from a balcony draped in silks that caught the wind softly. Her pale face was serene, but her eyes betrayed a calculating mind. She had heard whispers of the orphan girl with the power to fracture the sphere, and though her world was built on privilege and control, a part of her wondered if change was inevitable. Yet, Her allegiance was a secret dance supporting the rebellion, enough to shape it, but not enough to see the city fall into chaos. In the council chambers, the air was thick with tension. Crystal goblets clinked as advisors debated in hushed tones, their faces masks of concern and ambition. Tauren, a young council member with a conflicted heart, found himself drawn to the rumors about Lira. His blonde hair fell into his eyes as he paced the marble floor, torn between duty and a growing empathy for those beneath the glass. Later that evening, on a balcony overlooking the city's heart, Tauren confronted Lira. The waning light caught the expanding network of cracks in the glass dome, casting fractured shadows that danced across their faces. "You risk everything," he said softly. "If the sphere breaks, what becomes of us all?" Lira met his gaze steadily. "If it doesn't break, nothing changes. We remain prisoners trapped in a cage of glass and lies." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden, sharp crack, louder and more terrifying than before. A new fissure spiderwebbed rapidly across the dome, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Below, panic erupted in the streets as citizens looked skyward, fear and hope mingling in their eyes. The storm howled in response, lightning illuminating the city in stark, jagged bursts. The fragile peace shattered as the realities of rebellion and revolution collided with the unyielding power of the glass sphere. Lyra's heart pounded. This was the moment when choices must be made. Alliances forged or broken, and the fate of the city decided. Within the gathering storm, beneath the fractured glass, Lira stood at the crossroads of destiny. Could she unite the divided factions before the entire city was consumed by chaos? The answer lay somewhere between the cracks, waiting to be claimed. As the night deepened, the city held its breath, once more waiting for the dawn that might bring either salvation or destruction. The air in the hidden chamber was thick with the scent of ancient parchment and the faint tinge of magic that hummed beneath the surface. Lyra's footsteps echoed softly against the stone floor as she ventured deeper into the labyrinth beneath the floating city. The dim glow from the enchanted lanterns cast ghostly shadows on the walls, revealing shelves upon shelves of dusty tomes and scrolls, their spines cracked and worn by time. Eamon, the keeper of the archives, walked beside her with a measured pace. His aged hands trembled slightly as he reached for a sealed scroll resting in a carved wooden box. The surface adorned with symbols that shimmered faintly like the city's glass dome itself. "This," he said in a voice both reverent and cautious, "holds the truth of your bloodline, Lira. The truth about the sphere and those who first bound it." Lyra's heart pounded, a mixture of curiosity and dread flooding her senses. She had always felt a connection to the glass that encased their city, a mysterious pull she could never explain. Now, standing in the place where history was preserved, the weight of that feeling pressed heavily upon her. With a nod from Eamon, she reached out, breaking the ancient seal. The scroll unfurled with a whisper, and light spilled forth, coalescing into a holographic image that danced before their eyes. It depicted the sphere's creation, a colossal forge of magic and glass, wielded by figures cloaked in radiant light. Among them, a woman whose features mirrored Lyra's own stared back, her hands weaving strands of power into the sphere's core. "That is your ancestor," Eamon said softly. "You are of the Glassbound lineage, chosen to carry the legacy of those who shaped our city's fate." Lyra's breath hitched. The revelation was as staggering as it was terrifying. To be tied so intimately to the city's very foundation meant more than just power. It meant responsibility, sacrifice, and perhaps isolation. As she struggled to absorb the enormity of this truth, a sudden tremor shook the chamber. The faint glow of the sphere's magic outside seemed to surge and falter. Eamon's eyes widened as they both felt the reverberation ripple through the city. Rushing upwards, they emerged onto a balcony overlooking the sprawling metropolis. The glass dome above them shimmered unnaturally, a deep, resonant crack snaking across its surface like a wound opening wide. A sound like distant thunder rolled through the air, silencing the bustling city below. Citizens paused, faces lifted in awe and fear at the first visible fracture in their glass prison. Lira's pulse quickened. The crack was no ordinary fissure, but a harbinger of change, a visible sign that the fragile balance of their world was unraveling. Later, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting the city in hues of amber and violet, Lira found herself alone on a glass balcony. The cool air brushed against her skin, carrying the distant rumble of the storm below. Cerise, a member of the ruling elite, approached quietly, her expression unreadable. "I know this must be overwhelming," Cerise said, her voice low and steady, "but you are not alone in this. There are those among us who see the need for changing, who believe in your power to lead it." Lira met her gaze, searching for sincerity beneath the polished exterior. "Why should I trust you?" she asked, tension tightening her throat. Cerise smiled faintly, a shard of glass catching the light. "Because sometimes, the greatest change comes from the most unlikely alliances." As night settled over the floating city, Lira stood at the crossroads of destiny. The legacy of the Glassbound pulsed within her, a promise and a burden intertwined. The first crack in the dome was not just a fracture in glass, but a fracture in the city's soul, and Lira would have to decide if she would be the one to mend it or let it shatter. Her journey was only beginning, and the choices she made now would echo through the storm and beyond.